When life knocks you down, and life will knock you down, try to land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. Welcome to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle.
Welcome back to Fire with Dr. Ninja Turtle. In my last video, I discussed part 2 of the book, Secrets of Self-Made Millionaires, and some of the secrets that I've used over the years and some that I have not used over the years. But in this video, this one's going to be more about mindset. And it's based off a recent video from Julie of Happy on Monday, where she talked about the 6 phases of retirement. And I'm going to go deeper into the 6 phases of retirement, but I will link her video down below. Also, I found information on the 6 phases of retirement on Investopedia, and I'll also have that link down below. As we get into these 6 phases, by the end of this video, you are going to realize just what an academic nerd I am, because I start with looking at these 6 phases. And by the end, I'm going to talk to you about the rabbit hole that I ended up going down in my academic research about these 6 phases. So phase 1 is pre-retirement. And what I did in phase 1 is I maxed out my 401k. I also used my income from teaching and not my income from the federal government for the last 3 years prior to my retirement. So I was planning to retire years before I was actually eligible for federal retirement. And so what I did was I proved to myself, and this is one of those things that Dave Ramsey talks about. He says, get your boat close enough to the dock that you can make the leap. So what I had to do was prove to myself that I did not need my federal income, that my teaching income could replace my federal income. And that's what I did in pre-retirement. And the other thing that I did in pre-retirement was for 5 years prior to retiring, my wife and I would come down here to where we live now in Southeast Alabama, and we would look for land or a home and try to see where we would retire down here. Now, our only requirement was that there was no more snow. That was our basic requirement. We had other requirements, but the basic one was we wanted to move far enough south where we would not have snow. I ride a motorcycle, and she grew up in the snow, and so she did not want snow anymore in her retirement. So we just kept going south until the Weather Channel told us there's rarely snow down there. The second phase of retirement is the actual retirement. And mine was not very well planned out. What happened was things went bad at work, and I looked at my finances and I looked at what my wife and I had done in preparation in the 3 years and 5 years before retirement. And I said, you know what? I can pull the ripcord. I will be okay. Now, this was an overnight decision. I don't recommend that other people decide to retire in an overnight decision like I did. But I had been in a toxic work environment for at least 14 years. And so it was easy for me to say, I have had enough. And so what I did was I gave my organization 2 months notice because I had projects that were planned out in the future and I wanted to complete those projects. It's important to me to have integrity when I walk away. Now, this has nothing to do with how I was treated by the organization or by people in the organization. It has to do with my own philosophy in life. Phase 3 is the contentment phase. It's also known as the honeymoon phase. This was my first year in retirement. And I'll talk to you more later about contentment in the other 3 years because I've been here almost 4 years, meaning that I've been retired almost 5 years. So when I quit my job and took delayed retirement where I wouldn't get my pension for another year and a half, that was okay because I had the finances and I had the income to float my life for the next year and a half. Also, my wife was not retiring for another year after I retired. So as soon as we both retired, we moved down to Southeast Alabama. And that's where contentment has really begun to grow. And I've been on a honeymoon phase for 5 years now. And so I do not know that that's ever going to end. Please like and subscribe and share my videos with anyone you know who has been knocked down by life and is getting back up, because that's what I've done. Also, I want to remind you that if I'm ever monetized on YouTube, I will never take profits from YouTube. I'm financially free and I don't need YouTube's money. I will donate the money to charity because that's what I'm here to do, is work and help with charitable organizations. Phase 4 is the disenchantment phase. And Julie mentioned on her channel, Happy on Monday, that she did not go through that. And I believe she's been retired about 100 days. I have now been retired about 5 years, and I have not gone through the disenchantment phase. So I don't know, as Julie said, that it's ever going to happen. When you've left a toxic work environment, you do not have a whole lot of disenchantment. I don't have the desire to go back to the traffic in DC. I don't have the desire to be in any traffic, even in Atlanta. When I go through Atlanta, there's too much traffic for me in Atlanta. Also, what has helped me is that I have always volunteered. Even before I retired, I volunteered in my communities. And so after retirement and I moved here, I do the same thing. I volunteer at soup kitchens. I ride my motorcycle on charity motorcycle rides to raise money. I do things for the community in which I live. And at the end of this video, I'm going to update you on my Budget Bros, where I'm trying to teach financial literacy to people in my community. Phase 5 is the reorientation phase. And I have been reorienting in the whole 4 years that I've lived here. When I first moved here, I was buying rental properties because interest rates were nearly zero from the feds, but that meant that I could buy rental properties at low interest rates in the 5s, 6, and 7% as an investor. Also, what I've done is I found my community down here. I found friends to ride motorcycles with. I have found things to do in my backyard, AKA my burn barrel. As you know, I like to go outside and pick up sticks and burn in my burn barrel. But even more recently, the reorientation has still continued. As you saw on the thumbnail, my wife and I have a new puppy. That just came a couple of weeks ago. And then on top of that, we went to an Airbnb near a lake back in May. And then they invited us back and gave us a couple of days extra free. So we went back in September. Well, while we were at the lake, at this Airbnb, there was an RV for sale. So my wife and I bought the RV at the lake. So now we have a weekend place to go to. All of this is orientation and my life changing over the past 4 years. I did not design this, and I could not have designed a better life than what I have today. I will tell you that my prior plan was to dig a pond, because I have a creek in my backyard, is to dig a pond that would be 2 acres or 3 acres. I now have a 6,000 acre lake in which to fish on. So I don't think I'll be doing the 2 or 3 acres in my backyard. Phase 6 is routine. I am settling, and it's taken 4 years for me to settle into a routine. What I started doing was traveling around the country the last 2 years, and I would just get in my car and drive for a month and visit friends around the country. Well, I just mentioned that we bought an RV at a lake park, and so I'll be going there in 2025. I still have a trip scheduled out of the country in 2025, and I have an annual trip to Omaha, Nebraska that I went to in August of this year. So every August, I'm going back to Omaha, Nebraska. But absent those 2 trips, I will be spending a lot more time in the RV at the lake. Because I teach online, I can work from anywhere. So I can work while fishing at the lake. So as you can see, with all 6 phases, This is not just about money. Retirement is about a holistic view on life and your life changing. If you are busy in retirement and find things to do, for example, I do community service. It really keeps me busy. I volunteered, and when one place doesn't need me to volunteer anymore, I find another place to volunteer. I also want to mention that I started tracking my net worth 5 years before I retired. So tracking net worth really helped me when I made that decision to retire to say I have enough. It doesn't matter that I don't have 2 million or 5 million, I have enough. And that's what it takes. So track your net worth so that you know when enough is enough for you. As you can see, I've changed my background because I want you to see where I'm going to be sitting and working in the future. This is my future, is working from the RV at this lake behind me. And so this goes back to the two rules of Die with Zero. Rule number 1 and rule number 2. Rule number 1, maximize positive life experiences. And where he says, don't even wait until you retire. Enjoy life now. And then he says, invest in experiences early. So as you know, there are the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. I am in the go-go years. And so now I want to get out on this lake and fish while I have my youth and my health, because health is something that you can't replace. As I mentioned, I am an academic nerd, and that's going to come out right now. I looked at where did these 6 phases come from, and they came from Robert Atchley in 1976. He built this model of these 6 phases. Well, I went down a rabbit hole on Robert Atchley to see what other research he did on retirement, and that led me to articles about retiring early. It led me to academic articles about happiness in retirement, and I'm going to do my next video based on all these articles and all this research that I've done, because I'm a researcher and that's what I do. Before I end the video, I want to update everyone on my Budget Bros, which is how I'm trying to help people in my community with financial literacy. I have one person, the organization that I tried to help young men in transition, they never came back to me. So I do not know if they just don't want my help or if they have someone else that is going to teach those young men financial literacy. But I have one person that I'm working with, and I will keep volunteering until this movement grows in my town. The other thing that I want to update you on is my savings rate. My savings rate has hit 49.5% as of the end of September. However, I have had a lot of reversals and expenses with my rental properties, and therefore my savings rate will not go any higher than this. In fact, it will start going down in the last 3 months of the year, because this is life. I will start again in January and try and get an even higher savings rate than 50%. So the last thing that I want to say is the quote of the day. Life is not measured by the number in your bank account, but by the memories you create. Therefore, focus on how your finances can maximize your life, not the other way around. Remember, never let your past determine your future.